It's like the season for cheesecakes. Everybody wants a cheesecake. So what I did first is I took about a big package, a family size package of Oreo cookies. I left some with the cream in, some I took the cream out, right? I didn't want all that cream in there. But in here, I'm just gonna mix about 10 tablespoons of butter, all right? And I'm gonna mix this together. I like Oreos for this, right? Because you can use chocolate graham crackers too. They do have them. I just think the Oreos work better. I just like the way they look and they taste better in this particular cheesecake, which is the peppermint bark cheesecake, right? So I'm going to mix this together. In here, I have just the Oreos, some with the cream, some without. So I would say about 50-50, right? And then in here, I just have the melted butter, right? So we're going to mix this together. Try to get it as greatly combined as you can. It should look like wet sand, of course. And then we're going to, actually what this customer wants is this customer wants a 9-inch pan, and they want 4 of the personal size pans. So they're like this, right? I bought these at Amazon. If you want, I can put the link below for you. Almost a whole package, like I said, of the Oreos. And I'm going to be using 10 tablespoons of butter, but that's because this is going to make the 9-inch and all of the individual gifts that they want, right? All right. So in here, I think this is pretty wet enough. I don't know if you can see that, right? But it's kind of sticking together, right? Sticking together, so that's good. And that's going to go in here. We're going to do about 2 cups or so go in here, okay? And then you're going to just flatten this out. Move this over. And then use like something with a kind of a flat bottom, right? And that's going to help you kind of get in here and press this in a little bit. Now, this one is kind of round. I should get a different one. So we're going to press this in, okay? I don't care particularly if my crust goes up on the sides. I actually like that look. I think I've said that before in my other cheesecake recipe videos because it's true. I mean, that's what I like, right? We're going to flatten these out. We're good here. There we go. Flatten that out, even up. And all I did was I put these through the food processor. But if you don't have a food processor, just use a plastic bag and a pan or something and just whack away, and it'll crumb up really nice for you, okay? All right, so that's what it looks like, okay? And now I'm going to do the little ones. And if I have extra from the little ones, I am going to put the rest of it in the bigger pan because it'll be a little bit more a little bit nicer in the bigger pan because it's such a big cheesecake, right? So I'm going to do about a nice big handful in each one of these. And we're going to do the same thing, flatten these guys out, okay? Now these pans hold about 10 ounces. Basically what you need is 1.5 of the recipe that I'm going to give you, right? So when you're doing your cheesecake, if you want to do a couple of the minis, it's 1.5 of the batters gave me one large 9-inch and 4 of these, okay? So if it gives me 4 of these on the half, then you can probably just use one 9-inch cheesecake recipe and make 8 of these small ones, okay? So this holds, like I said, 10 ounces, and that's including, of course, the crust and the cheesecake, right? So go in here and try to flatten this as best you can. Little hard because this has a handle on it, but if you have a flat bottom cup or something, that would work best. So I'm going to flatten these out, and now that we got these done, right? So see that? They're beautiful, okay? And then we got the 4 done as well, right in here, okay? What we're going to do now is bake these into an oven at 325 for about 10 minutes, okay? Now my oven, I don't know what's going on, but it is 50 degrees off. So I have to put it at 375 in order for it to be 325. Don't you just love it? We're going to get started. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cream our cream cheese. Now it is 3 pounds. We have this big tub. We got it from Costco. And this is 3 pounds. Yep, 3 pounds, because that's what we need to make these recipes, right? So we're going to do 3 pounds in here. I left it out for the last couple of hours because I really wanted it to be soft, right? Everything should be at room temperature. That way you know it's mixing well, everything is working together and it's melding, right? Because if things are cold, sometimes they hold their shape a little more, like the cream cheese would probably leave lumps in there, and that's not what you want, right? So this whole 3-pound tub is going in. And what I have here is I think this is a 6-quart. Yeah, this is a 6-quart, which this will fit nicely in here. Okay, so let's just get all of this in there if I can actually get it out of this container. Oh, okay. It got out mostly. It got out for the most part. I got this new paddle because, Lord, it is really hard to like scrape the sides of this freaking bowl all the time. We're gonna beat this and let it get, really soft and creamy for about 2 minutes. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start adding the ingredients. So the next ingredient we're gonna add is sugar, right? But I always like to soften up the cream cheese first before I start adding everything else. Let's scrape a little bit on the sides here and make sure that we're getting also all of the things from the bottom of the bowl. So make sure you scrape that bottom and get all of that stuff up, right? Right now I'm using about 2 cups of very fine granulated sugar. And we're gonna whip that together now, or mix that together. And that'll go for about 2 minutes. And then we're gonna start adding in the rest of our ingredients. Personal size, okay, this is it, all right? So we're gonna be mixing this together. I will leave the recipe below for you to make 1 9-inch cheesecake, okay? And the recipe below will give you that, and that way you can just multiply that by how many you want. The recipe I'm using right now is 1.5 times. The next thing I want to put in here is our sour cream. Sour cream is very, very good for giving that cheesecake flavor, that tang that you get from cheesecake. I will say that you also can use like a full fat yogurt, like a Greek yogurt. You can use that as well, okay? But it has to be full fat, okay? It can't be non-fat. It just doesn't work the same. But the full fat does help, and it works pretty much the same. I like the sour cream better. I just think I don't know, it gives it like that classic taste and that tang, and I love it. But I have, in a pinch, I have definitely used the Greek yogurt and it worked fine. Okay, so another 2 minutes or so. Let's go. Once your sour cream is combined, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put about a teaspoon or two. I'm using 2 teaspoons of vanilla and a half a teaspoon of peppermint extract. Yeah, it's in there. Okay, so we're going to use that. And that, what happens there is that it brings out that peppermint flavor that we're trying to go for, especially in our cheesecake, right? This is a peppermint bark cheesecake. You don't have to use it though. If you only have vanilla, don't go out and buy yourself peppermint extract if you don't have it, because why have something in the house that you're never going to use, right? Use what you have, and the vanilla works just as fine. So we're going to put in the vanilla next. We're just going to mix it in for about 1 minute. Make sure it's combined, and once that's combined, we're going to go ahead and use 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. The reason we use flour is because flour will absorb all the extra moisture that everything has in here, right? So your sour cream, your cream cheese, like that has moisture in it. And what happens is, if you've ever cooked a cheesecake and it's cracked or domed on the top, it's because it had too much moisture, and there it just, the steam came out, it cracked top of the cake, right? So this is why the magic happens with just a little bit. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot. Just a little bit of your flour, okay? So we're gonna mix that in. Make sure everything is combined fully, okay? It's time to do the eggs. So this time it's 6 eggs, okay? So 6 eggs are gonna go in one at a time, okay? Make sure they're incorporated, and then put the next one in. Incorporated, next one in, okay? Make sure your eggs are also at room temperature. It will be so much better if you can do that. You don't wanna have cold eggs into this mixture. Then you're gonna bake it and you might find cooked solid pieces of egg, right? You don't want that. So let's just make sure that everything is at room temperature, so everything bakes evenly and well, and then you can actually know that you're giving away a good product. When everything is mixed through, just make sure you give it one more scrape, because we don't want any like cream cheese left behind, right? Anything that's been left behind that maybe hasn't been fully incorporated. So make sure you scrape everything. Now that was pretty simple. For more time, maybe about another 3-4 minutes, I just want to make sure everything is incorporated before I pull this off, because the candy cane pieces and the bark that we're doing, we are not going to mix that with the machine. We're going to just fold that in. Think I scraped it all pretty good. I think I did. It seems like I did. All right, let's keep going, right? Perfection. Well, this looks pretty good. There's like a couple of pieces in there, like a couple of chunks, or not chunks, but like little pieces of cream cheese, right? And so that doesn't matter. You're always going to see that anyway, right? But I wanted to take out those big chunks. There were some big pieces in there. And skim this off, because I want to make sure that we don't leave anything behind, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these beautiful pieces. It's going to be some peppermint bark, and all I did was I took the peppermint bark and I cut it with a knife, and then I got these little candy cane pieces. I bought them already crushed, okay? I bought them from Amazon, so it works. I didn't feel like, crushing those two. I don't know, it's kind of being lazy about it. But here's some peppermint and here's some peppermint bark, right? So all this goes in and folding it in. That's it. Just making sure that we get it all the way in the mixture. Done. That's it. You don't want to overmix it. You don't want to break up the chocolate pieces, right? So now we're going to put everything in its baking dish. So these already went into the oven and they cooled down. You're going to see a little bit of parchment, but what I do is I do a strip of parchment in these pans, and then I still put a round in here. And the reason I do that is because these pans are a pain in the ass to try to pull up the cheesecake without breaking the crumb. With this, I can just literally lift it out of the pan at the end, and I'll show you that, okay? So in here, I'm going to just use a regular old pan here. This is a 10-inch. This is a 9-inch pan. It fits perfectly, just like that. And the reason I do that is because I don't want the water that I'm going to be putting into this old pan seeping into my cheesecake. That's the only thing I don't like about spring forms, that sometimes they get like a little bit wonky, and then you get water coming into your cake or whatever you're baking in that, right? So I hate that, and that's why I put it into another container. This is beautiful, right? We're gonna pour that in almost to the tippity top, okay? And I'm probably even gonna put a little bit more in there, but I wanna fill up these 4 as well. So same thing I did with this. I took these little pans that I'm gonna be making, right? And what I didn't want is for the pans, I don't know how these bake. I've never used these before, and I didn't want to put these in water and then have them get stained looking, because then it would be removing each cheesecake, and that's a pain in the neck, and I'm not doing that, okay? This is half a cup, and I'm just going to measure this out as best I can, because I want to make sure that everything gets little pieces of candy in it, right? And I want to make sure that these bake up really evenly, that they look really pretty together. So the rest of this now, I'm just going to put into the bigger pan, right? So this is pretty much, these are the 4. This is your cheesecake, your 9-inch. But I have all of this left over, and I'm going to put it right in here, because I don't mind if this one is all the way to the top, right? Because this I'm going to pull out of the pan, and I'll have plenty of room to still add my ganache and the toppings. So let's fill this bad boy up. Now these are going to go into the oven. So I'm going to put these guys in. They're going to go in together, but these will be done in about 30 to 40 minutes. And then this will be done in like an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. And then what I like to do is I like to make sure that I leave them in the oven for at least another hour, right? So we're gonna go ahead and do the best we can with these, right? We're gonna do the best we can. When we come back, you're gonna see the finished cheesecakes. Then we're gonna do our ganache and our toppings. All right, I'll see you in a little bit. Hey y'all, so I'm back. But what I'm gonna do now is finish off these cheesecakes, right? So we got the cheesecake out and we have the mini ones here as well. They look really, really good. And so what I need to do is melt the ganache, right? So all I'm gonna do is do about 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. And I heated it up in the microwave for about a minute, okay? And all I'm gonna do is I'm going to melt the chocolate. So I'm gonna mix this together. Hopefully it's hot enough to make that chocolate melt, and it's gonna become this beautiful thick ganache, which we are gonna start dressing everything up with. I'm also gonna melt these white chocolate chips. And what I'm gonna do with these is I'm gonna just probably put them in a Ziploc bag, and that way I can just decorate the top. Super, super simple. Okay, so we're just gonna mix this around. I'm probably gonna have to pop this in the microwave for another few minutes. Okay, so I popped this out of the microwave. I put it in there for about 45 seconds, and I took a whisk to it, and you should be able to see a ribbon on the chocolate. So if you see that ribbon? Okay, that is what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so whisk this together really well. And what we're gonna do is allow this to cool down just a little bit because it's still very warm, and I want it to be a little bit thick when we put it on top of the cheesecake. I'm gonna go ahead and start melting our white chocolate chips. And then when I come back, we should be able to start assembling things. I want to put the ganache and let it cool down a little bit on the cheesecake. So we'll pop those in the fridge for about 20 minutes, let that ganache solidify, and then we can go ahead and finish everything off. All right, so I'll be right back. All right, so I got 2 of these little ones ready to go. I put them in the freezer for about 15 minutes or so. I make sure my ganache isn't hot anymore, which it's not, thank goodness, right? And then all you're gonna do is take a little bit of your ganache, pour it in the center, okay? And then we're gonna tap this out. Let's see if I can put this in here, right? That's the good thing about having these little ones, right? Is that you can, not, you don't have to worry so much about it, making a huge mess. You just want to make sure it covers the entire pan, right? So when they dig into this beautiful cheesecake, so I'm just gonna have it go into all the 4 corners, okay? I just want the chocolate to cover the cheesecake. I want it to be a beautiful surprise inside, all right? Just gonna tap out a little bit of the air because there's a couple of air pockets in here that I don't really wanna see, but we're also gonna cover this whole thing with white chocolate and the peppermint pieces, right? So this is about 1/3 cup, okay? 1/3 cup. Do the same thing again. All I did for the white chocolate is just white chocolate chips. And all I did was melt it and put it in a Ziploc bag. That's it. And literally all I'm gonna do with this is a quick drizzle if I can. Just like that, nothing fancy, okay? They're gonna love the flavor of this. And that's all we can ask for, right? All right, chocolate everywhere because I don't care how many years I've worked with chocolate, I get it everywhere, everywhere. Now what I like to do is put a couple of these of the bark, just a little bit. I don't want to put much on here because I'm going to use some of the candy crush, right? The crushed candy. So we're just going to put a couple on each one. And then we're going to take some of these crushed peppermints and we're going to do the same. Okay? Be very gentle like that. Don't do that, right? Like put everything in one section, right? That's what I was trying to avoid. Okay, once you get these beautiful candy pieces on here, that looks so pretty. Okay, then all I want to do, right, so you've got these little tops here that go on them like this, but before I do that, okay, perfect, they fit, because sometimes these little things don't work well. Okay, is I have these pieces, and let's see, I think I want to get a good piece that has, hopefully, yeah, see that's so big that it's gonna make me go all the way in with the piece. I'm just gonna put a piece like this, just like that. Hopefully that'll close. Yes, it does. Yes, there we go. This is gonna be a gift. I'm gonna wrap it in tape, and it comes with these little spoons that I'm gonna give them, okay? So this is just one. They're so cute. Aren't they cute? Remember the parchment paper I told you I had sticking out on the sides? Okay, I have it sticking out on the sides. I'm gonna grab a knife, and all I'm gonna do, let's see if I can show you this. go where the parchment paper is, go underneath it like that, and just run your knife along the bottom of the parchment, okay? As much as you can on the edges. We're gonna pick this up, slide this guy over. Yes, it did work. Okay, there you go, right? That goes in there. I'm gonna try to remove this bottom one because we don't need this one if it comes off. There we go. Okay. The only reason I put that extra strip is because I want it to come out of the pan easy. Otherwise, you have that little bend in here that is almost impossible to take the cheesecake out. We're going to do the same thing for this one that we did with the other one. This one, I am going to do a generous amount of ganache, and I don't care at all if it drips on the sides, okay? Because I think it's gonna, let me put my hand now we're gonna take this beautiful ganache, we're gonna pour it, and again, you know, the more generous for me, the better, right? Okay, all right. Make sure there's nothing on, because I just picked the cheesecake up with it, but I don't want those crumbs, there we go. I don't want the crumbs on the top, all right? If it goes over the edge, let it flow. Try to go as evenly as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just made with a lot of love. And my client knows I like to do a very rustic look because I love when somebody gives you something that is homemade and beautiful. The only time that I won't go so rustic unless asked for is on a wedding cake or a birthday cake, right? When somebody really, really wants to have it look real or as perfect as possible or clean lines as possible, then I won't play around and make it rustic. But when it comes to like homemade desserts and cheesecakes and stuff, like yes, all day I want it rustic. Okay, so once we do this beautiful ganache on top, which it can use, that's it. I'm not gonna keep beating this thing up. Leave that alone because I have 2 more cheesecakes I have to fill with that. Okay, and now chocolate everywhere all the time. This is what I do. It's so annoying. Okay, I'll leave it a little bit because I have 2 more pieces in there, right? So we'll stop right there. And then, oh, you know what I forgot, right, guys? You know what I forgot. None of y'all told me either. All right, go crazy with it. Go straight, go circles, do whatever you like. Okay, this is so pretty. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to hear what they think because there is so much great peppermint flavor in here. And then you have the chocolate and you have the white chocolate and you have like all these beautiful things going on, right? Beautiful big pieces I saved for this, right? Here, this one. Okay. So we're just gonna decorate those, put a couple of pieces in here like, right? And we have a peppermint or peppermint bark, I should say, cheesecake. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? That is so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna finish up because I have a lot of things to do tonight. I still gotta do some grading for some of my students and do some other things. So I have a lot of things to do, but thank you so much for hanging out with me at the Purpose-Filled Kitchen. Please make sure that you enjoy one of these or you make these for people. You can make them regular. It doesn't have to be peppermint, but this is what was requested, right? So I hope that you enjoy this because look at this. So freaking cute. Make sure you give this to people. All right, until next time.